Welcome, welcome to another exciting streaming. So, well, technically we can start. Today on the plate is me, the person who you came to see. And then if you look around for a bit, you can see a little bit of a scene, like a crime scene formulating at the moment. I mean, this side is the usual cows and the giant hand, and that side has all sorts of things going on. Not sure how much of it you can see, but, well, you know. So it's up to you to decipher what's going on. I may have done it deliberately, but I may have done it by accident because I was in a hurry. Well, it's really your choice now. But today's agenda, as I can see, just a little bit of Hungarian starting out. Then I received in the mail, a government propaganda booklet, which in the little video I made about it, I think I called it a leaflet, but that's not right. But then again, I'm very shy in front of a camera, and I did feel not entirely indifferent about it, because I seem to know a different truth. But as we realized, I guess since Trump has been the President of the United States, along with Orbán Viktor, our current Prime Minister, there is such a thing as alternative truth. So I can only give you my truth about it. Then we go on and I go on and talk about speaking two different languages. That might help you to when you learn Hungarian, who knows, especially if you only speak one language. There is indeed a big life-changing thing about it. And then I guess we and of course that's the main structure, and also answering questions. That's an ongoing quest that we are here together on it with our joint force. Now, okay then, now this little film about the government propaganda thing can wait, because right now we are going to learn a little bit of an expression here. Please excuse me the dark and black and white webcam here, because I realized that in previous streams and also when I do Skype calls, I do a bit of a laggy thing there, but this way hopefully not. It doesn't even matter, because right now the main thing is the screen here, which hopefully with the bigger letters even on smartphones you can look at, and of course Doggy Lisa as the main painting that we have here. That's just my background everywhere. I suggest everyone to make it their background as well. It's not my creation and I don't receive any money for it, so now you know that it's all genuine love, which is important. Now let's go on. So I have a very easy expression for you today. It's this: őszinte legyek. But again, just like last time, this could be interpreted in two distinct and different ways, because we love those. Now, the normal way you would interpret it is so I could or should be honest. That's the idea here. Usually this follows a sentence when you state something that, like, I think apples are great. To be honest, that's what you would say in English. But since this is the fun part of the stream, not really the hardcore grammar, the grammar, then let's just move on and let's talk about the other meaning. So alternatively, if you look at the words, őszinte is something that always translates to honest. That's awesome. But then the problem with legyek is, in the previous version it was a verb, a variation of to be. Lenni or less or whichever, you know. I mean, this is an irregular verb that you have to learn. But this one is the plural of something, because the K is, well, very well known, is the plural of things. Now, legyek is flies, as in like the zum things, not the bees but the flies. So technically, if we really are nitpicking about the whole thing, those could be the two versions, which is a nice play of words. Play on words, I wanted to say. But then again, since we are always in a hurry, here's the first question, which is pretty cool. So the pronunciation of this one, which is mizújs, and I'm gonna repeat that, mizújs. It's kind of sounds a bit Slavic, but so it's like mizújs. As you remember, probably you remember, and you're very well aware of the fact that the S letter is always S in Hungarian. That's just something that if you're new around here, you can actually utilize from now on. But if you're just a person who's always been here since the beginning of the streaming, that you already know that I don't need you to remember anything, because you already know that. Okay, I'm just rambling on. Now, what does this mean, I would ask anyone, but since this is, beside the streaming, this is also a video that people can look at later. Wow, I mean, really, this is quite annoying, and now we are back in business, but strangely this happens every once in a while during streaming. It doesn't matter if I actually just do things or not, or I don't know what's going on, but at least hopefully this is not going to be generated as 2 videos, only one. So hello and welcome back. I believe we were talking about something very important, which I forgot. But then again, this computer thing this needs to be sorted out at some point, because right now nothing is really back. Well, technically stuff is back, but let me go on. What is happening here? Now that is just black. And why is that? Why is that black? As if there was nothing there. Oh boy. So, technical problems, it seems, which is awesome. But yeah, technically I'm back, but for some reason it's still not showing the thing, and it should be showing the thing, like the monitor, for instance. There is this capture thing going on, and now of course everybody is off. This is a disaster, I have to say. This is craziness, absolutely craziness. So I might have to just actually restart the whole streaming. Excuse me, I'll be back in a second. Right, now that's encouraging, especially when it comes to the whole futures thing. Right, now we are back, and I was talking about, well, it wasn't preserved, of course, why would it be? But I was talking about the word mizújs. And mizújs is something that is short for other stuff, which is újság. Now if you look in the dictionary and look at the word újság, you will find it as well, either a newspaper or, well, a newspaper or a magazine. Now for us, when it comes to these specific questions, it really means what's going on. And of course, if you think about it in English, that also doesn't make any sense. Like, why is anything would be going on? I mean, if I want to nitpick all the expressions in the world. But yeah, okay, now, here we go. Everything's fantastic, everything's back in order, and everybody's, well, hopefully enjoying things. Now, since I promised you a short film about things, and I'm gonna show it to you. Hopefully it will work and everything will be perfectly fine. Yeah, okay then.
Okay, here it goes. It's very simple. How else should you get government information than these leaflets or whatever you wish to call them? So basically every once in a while our government thinks that the populace should be notified about the success that we have. Now, how much of this based on reality? Let's see. Alright, so it says Hungary is getting stronger. I don't feel it, nobody feels it, but I guess it's true. Let's go with this. 25% increase of the minimum wage. So here you can see it's a bloody good little chart of like from 2010 until 2018. It's the minimum wage for professional workers. The problem with this is that it's a government increase and it's not based on economics. It's just companies who paid the minimum wage because either these people were not that good at their jobs or they could not afford because they are small businesses. Now they have to pay more. But where does that come from? There is no more, so admittedly there is news about companies firing people at an alarming rate because this cannot be done. How about this? An increase in the wage of nurses and teachers. They have not seen it yet, but probably it's true. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I have some people who are teachers and they say that, well, they have mixed feelings about this. And then an extra 30,000 forints now if you have 2 kids. Now, that could help. That is a genuine thing. I have no argument about this. I'm not sure where the money is coming from. Well, admittedly from taxes, but whatever. And the economy is getting bigger. I don't have the expertise to argue about this because I don't know the economy of Hungary, but I guess I can believe this. I don't see it when I get into my car and drive around, but I guess it's a long-term thing. Alright, so 10 million forints if you buy a home. Now, homes are about 20-30 million forints, but you do have to apply, and 81 billion forints were paid to people getting homes. The problem with this is that sometimes people have the bright idea to just marry on paper and get the thing, which is not very nice. But anyways, now free food for children. Now that is awesome, because a couple of friends of mine have children and they said that they do have free stuff, or for very cheap you can get meals in schools, which is awesome. But it's not that awesome because their children come home and report that they have meals like ketchup on bread and nothing else. Well, not for lunch. For lunch you have a soup without meat or something, but it's not this nice anyways. And free textbooks, well, the textbooks, even when I went to school, were not that great or nice, so that's fine. I guess it's a very nice touch, though I cannot argue with that. It's just too good to, it seems too good to be true, or whatever. Now, this is the most controversial ever, because the VAT or sales tax on the internet goes from 20% to 18%. This is the government that 3 years ago wanted to tax the internet by the gigabyte you download. So it's nice, but it's a weird 180-degree turn. And then this is my favorite one, a lot of hundred thousands of workplaces. Now the way this works right now is that because we cannot persuade other countries to outsource their work to Hungary, they either do it on their own or they don't do it at all. So the government created these government jobs for people in need. So basically all the other people who pay taxes pay for these people, but this is reported as 700,000 new workplace. Now put this together with this whole idea of raising the minimum wage where people get fired, and these lots of jobs admittedly being created, it says that from 11% the whole unemployment rate went down to 4.5. That's the unemployment rate of the USA. I don't know if that's true or not. All I know is that we have a lot of these, and they govern this country from 2010, and it's awesome because on paper it's a success. And then if you put together all of these little things like sales tax stuff and giving a raise for the elderly, basically now they have a 1.6% of increase in the retirement salary, or what should I call them, that they have. And this is all. This was sent to our address, the address of my family, and if you want to get personalized whatever, I don't know what this means, you can actually apply. I'm not going to, but well, you know. So now we know how successful Hungary is. The problem is that when I drive around and when I talk to my friends, it doesn't seem to be true. And back to you, Chris.
Now that the microphone is back. So, okay. Well, I'm pretty sure that despite all my negativity, every single one of us now believes that Hungary is getting stronger. Now, obviously, I'm your only source of information on this case, so I wouldn't blame you if you wish to further examine the whole thing, but if you don't want to, That's the thing. It's nothing too bad, but doesn't really look good anyways. Alright, now that was something insanely fun, I presume, and not at all long. Now let's go on and do something seemingly useful. So here we go, hopefully that now you can see all the bread. So since I was away and you were looking at my hands, I got a question about this whole bread situation here. So how do you say the thing? And somebody already answered, which is always good. And the answer was Akarsz, kenyeret, which is one very correct version. Now, while technically it is correct, I wouldn't be me if I didn't start nitpicking in this case. So if you wish to actually make it even nicer than this, you can say Szeretnél, kenyeret. Now, Akarsz is something that is the equivalent of want. And in plenty of situations, you can use that in a very healthy way. Because if I'm on the phone with you and ask like, hey, I'm at the supermarket, do you want some bread or something, it's perfectly fine. Now if I'm offering you something, probably you would prefer if I use something like, would you like some bread, and szeret is like, and then that is just the would part of the sentence conjugated into second person, of course. And as always, I don't talk about the formal version because that could get out of hand pretty quickly. And then there is the word kerek. That was a question. Well, I mean, kerek means round, kerék means wheel, and kérek means I ask for something. And I believe that is the part that you have just fallen in love with the language, haven't you? Because seemingly this is just moving one letter or just use different forms of eh. And I wouldn't blame you. Hungarian is not the kind of language that is easy on anyone. So, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, this whole Hungarian ordeal is just using the same letters to form words. So I could go on and attack English for its seemingly chaotic spelling, but I'm not going to, because Hungarian is just as guilty. So yeah, that is the problem. Now, okay, there is another question directly related to this thing. Let me just fix a couple of these things. Now, there is a letter in Hungarian that is the last letter of the alphabet, which is Z and S together, forming the word zh. However, in this case, it's S, what you need. So szépen, and these are all fine. I mean, of course, I would never hold it against anyone to just pay attention to these tiny details, and I'm not even ironic, so don't get me wrong. But there is something that I'm quite, would you say, not allergic to, but like very suspicious, because I always tell that everyone that whenever you have an object, and in this case you are asking for a certain object, you need the T. And I know that this is an evil rule and everybody hates it, but then you really have to do it. So that would be, I would like a soup, pretty please. Literally, I mean, pretty please is there. Because you don't just ask for soup, you're like asking it in a nice way, which is awesome. So yeah, so everything is awesome, but never forget the tea. The tea is something like the 5th of November to the English, or 4th of July to Americans, or I always forget holidays, so I don't know what would it represent when it comes to me. But there you go. Now, it's fun, and beside being fun, the whole situation raises a concern, on my part at least, because when you are asking in a nice way, English, especially when people are Hungarians try to learn English, they often confuse the asking part with please. So, because in Hungarian you need a verb for this, you need to ask for something. While English, if you go into McDonald's and ask for a hamburger, you say like 1 hamburger please. But then when you go into a restaurant or a McDonald's in Hungarian, you need to ask it properly. You can't just run around, even though that technically the word légyszíves is pretty please, or just like please in a nice way. But despite that, you really need to ask things. Now, that should not be a problem for anyone who understands me, because I'm speaking English right now, as you might have noticed. And in English, it is not just it's not just customary, but mandatory to use a verb in every single sentence. That is one of the most important rules. But Hungarian, on the other hand, there is no such rule. You can use a noun, and then you have a sentence. Except this case. Unfortunately bad. I also noticed over the years that people, for some reason, seem to overdo it automatically once they try to get into this habit of using the T. And the T is very important, but it must be an object. And I know that when you're trying to talk or trying to write, it's not easy to actually pay attention to this whole sentence analyzing thing, that because certainly it's not in the back of my head when I speak Hungarian, so why should there be something like that in your head? Unfortunately, you have no choice because you are learning Hungarian as an adult. But when I was a kid, people were speaking to me in Hungarian. I did not understand any of it at first, even though I just assume because I don't have memories. So after like maybe 10 years, I was able to comprehend most of the things. Now, that doesn't mean that when any normal child at the age of 1 or 2 I didn't start speaking, but parents usually are so overwhelmed when it comes to their kids starting to speak that they often don't think about the perspective of a linguist. And why should they? That's ridiculous even to start. But in my twisted little world, if we paid attention, we could have noticed that when any of us were kids, we just said a couple of words, like cow, which according to the legend was my first sound, but this legend is something that would be in North Korea, so it's probably not true. But anyways, let's just go with that, because it's nice. Now, first words are hard, and none of us remember them. But we always remember when we start learning a language, and remember our failures, but when we are kids, we don't. Or for a very short period of time. So my advice to everyone is just accept that you are going to overdo the T, and I'm going to warn you about it. So after a while, it's just it's gonna be alright. Alright, so we covered this whole honest flies business. We also covered this whole government propaganda thing, which was supposed to be a fun little skit about government stuff in Hungary. And now on to, if there are no other questions, there is the question of like speaking two languages, although there's a question. So while first of all, randomly I was asked to pronounce, pronounce the word Szózat, which is the sort of second national anthem of Hungary. Oh, and I just put an extra N in there for some reason. So that's a very famous poem, and everyone should know it, at least Hungarians. Often it's not the case, but like, hey, well, you know. Right, now, going back to the questions. So, going backwards. Something that's online and allows you to practice Hungarian. Well, unfortunately, I don't have any online exercises because I have not ever designed a free course in Hungarian. So everything relies on me being present. So that's not helping. But Duolingo, this famous website where you can learn languages, offers a Hungarian course, I believe, and it's quite alright. I checked it out once. Of course it did not impress me because I'm Hungarian, I already know it, but you can check it out and everything will be alright. Okay, and then something else, let's see, list of important attachments. Well, I think the most important attachments, something that I covered extensively in the second season, would be the attachments for the verb. So if you have a verb, for instance, ül, you can go to verbix.com and have it conjugated for you, and those are the attachments that you are going to need. And obviously anything that is physical, as in like inside something, outside something, those are the things. So there you go. Now, what else is there? Oh yeah, I actually promised some time ago that I'm going to cover 3 words, these ones, and I have a letter that came with it, and that's that. Now let's read through it together. So whoever's mysterious person writing this, they want to learn ebben, abban, and ennél. And I get that they mean in this, therein at some point, yes, not too difficult. The question is, I want to say in this house, you say ebben or hazban. To me this seems like saying in the house, and I know I have to think about language differently, but I'm trying to make that transition, perhaps the topic, yeah, okay. There you go, that was the fast version. Now, yeah, the problem with Hungarian is that you can actually learn the meanings. I can even tell you that this whole meaning is actually conjugated, so you probably recognize ben, bon, nál, nél, tól, től, whatever attachment you can use. Now, for some reason, the words as meaning this and the words os meaning that, the z at the end is so weak that it just falls victim to the attachment that follows, and basically it will adapt to it, or it will clone it. That's just the technical part. But the problem is that it does seem to be a doubling, it does seem to have a doubling effect on things. And unfortunately, it's not even doubling, it's a tripling thing. Because if you think about it, ebben or hazban, if I want to translate that to English, means in this, the, in the house, or just, well, you know, house. And if I want to play around with it, and there you go. Now, in English, the is never needed. That's unheard of. When there is a this in the sentence, it's not needed. And then of course there's the preposition that doubles. And there you go. Now you get the expression. The trick to it is quite weird, at least in my opinion. It is weird because on one hand it makes sense, on the other hand it's complete craziness. But then, you know, what would you expect from Hungarian? So, on one hand it makes sense because, as opposed to English, Hungarian does not deal with prepositions. And, you know, what are prepositions, one might ask, and my answer would be, very quickly, that prepositions are separate words that alter the meaning of the following expression or word. But in Hungarian the attachment does the same. So, if you put a preposition in a sentence as a word, of course your desire is not to double it. So you would never say something like in this, in the house, because that sounds crazy. But also, again, in English, you would never double stuff like house, or pig, or cow. Why? That sounds like echoing. But if you repeat something, that sounds exactly like that. However, if in English there is a conjugated verb, for instance, the gerund version with the ing at the end, for instance, I like swimming and hunting, that's my example, then both words have the ing. Now, following the logic of not doubling up, one ing should be removed. But we don't remove it because it's an attachment and it doesn't bother us. Now, I know this sounds kindergarten logic, or something that is a crazy kind of like really just for the record explaining everything, but that's the point, just to make it absolutely perfectly clear that attachments, the doubling of attachments does not bother people. So that's why we never really talk about doubling the attachments, but we have to, if you look at it, because in Hungarian you have to sort of connect the expressions and use the same kind of logic on all of them. Much like in English, you have to use this kind of weird logic that if something happened in the past in the first part of the sentence, the other part should also, if it happens to be in the past, should be the past again. For instance, Jeremy told me that I was wrong. Now, that's ridiculous from a Hungarian point of view, because you shouldn't put that told you or told me part already shows me that everything happens in the past, not in English. So, I think, or I hope, that we covered all this attachment business. We just have to repeat them. There's nothing wrong with it. However, the repetition of the in Hungarian, that's obviously something that doubles up. And it's weird. And there is nothing you can do about it. You have to use the definite article, even though there is a this in the sentence. So yeah. Now, the thing is that we covered all stuff, the question, and going quickly back to whatever happened before with this whole where can I exercise this, my whatever I learned before. Someone mentioned memorize, which is also a helpful thing. I'm not sure how good Hungarian there is. Again, I checked it out a couple of times, but I don't think I can form an opinion since I already speak the language. But Memrise and Duolingo are the two big main sites that you can use, and they probably have plenty of material to work with, which is awesome. So there you go. I think I answered the questions, hopefully, and that sadly concludes our stream today, even though it was plagued a little bit by crazy technical issues. Hopefully it will be fine when it uploads as a video. So again, as usual, thank you for watching and being present, and hopefully you found it useful. Remember, you can ask questions during the stream, you can ask questions in the comments, which I will try to cover as the best I can, and also you can send me an email, and here you go. These are the sites that are useful. Remember that the Facebook thing is actually a page where you can get some fun word of the day things and whatever. So I think that would be all for now. Thanks for watching again, and see you next week. Goodbye.